Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. I want to thank you in particular for your leadership and for the President's leadership in addressing the concerns expressed by people in Utah, particularly in southern and southeastern Utah, issues related to the designation of the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument and the Bears Ears National Monument. I know that some criticism has come your way and the President's way over this, but what you did was courageous and it was the right thing to do. Let's take, for example, the people of San Juan County, Utah. This is Utah's poorest county. It's our poorest county in part because nearly all of the land is owned by the federal government. That was the case before the Bears Ears National Monument was designated on December 28th, 2016, and it remains the case since then. It also was the case before President Trump made the modifications to it, and it remains the case now. What changed with the monument designation was that people in San Juan County, the people of Utah, particularly those closest to the monument, were even further put outside of any process that might determine how that land can be used, how they can access that land, sometimes for recreational reasons, many times for religious purposes, as the land is considered sacred by the Native American tribes residing in San Juan County, Utah. This was a big move that was made, and a move that was much appreciated by people across the political spectrum in communities throughout Utah, especially southern Utah, and I appreciate and applaud you for doing that. Secretary Zinke, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a topic that I know you and I have discussed a little bit in the past. It deals with BLM law enforcement. As you know, BLM law enforcement has earned something of a poor reputation throughout much of the West, and this is particularly true in rural Utah because of the agency's history, particularly through certain personnel, of intimidation, of heavy-handed tactics, and of flagrant and, in some cases, well-documented abuses of authority. One major problem has been BLM's sometimes blatant disregard for state and local law enforcement. During the last administration, for instance, BLM allowed 8 of 12 cooperative agreements with local law enforcement agencies to expire. This flies directly in the face of statutory guidance from FLPMA that directs BLM to achieve, quote, maximum feasible reliance upon local law enforcement officials. Logic and the law dictates that this is important, and logic certainly dictates that minimal help from local law enforcement means maximum strain on the department's resources, and it also is going to lead to maximum strain with states and with local communities affected by these vast swaths of land over which the BLM has charge. This is certainly the case in many places in southern Utah, where trust between local residents and BLM law enforcement officials has completely deteriorated. So I wanted to ask you about what you're doing as the Secretary of the Interior and what you look forward to doing to change the culture of BLM law enforcement and to maximize reliance on local law enforcement within the West.
Great question. I have great respect for law enforcement. It's difficult, especially sometimes when you're the only guy out there, isolated duty stations, long ways away from help. And there's a lot of activity that's not good on federal lands. This covers BIA, covers BLM. But I am in support of cooperative agreements because when you see a BLM truck, the first thing that I would like the public to think about is land management. And when you see a BLM light go on behind you, I would like the public to think about maybe there's a lost kid out there. Have you seen a grizzly bear? Have you seen that? And not getting a ticket on a county road. And we have fired 4. to readdress, and it's about public trust. And law enforcement individuals have a higher responsibility because they have a badge. And because they have the badge, they also have to make sure that the power that is given to them is exercised correctly. And the heavy-handedness has led to a breach of trust, especially out west. And we are very aware of it. We've taken action to restore trust. We think the cooperative agreements are good. When there is an issue, and there's been several issues recently out west, I think your first line of defense or first action is probably call the local sheriff. He knows the people. He's an elected official. He's not an appointed federal agent. And there's goodness of having a elected official take the action and be the face of enforcement. And that certainly is the direction that Interior is headed.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. My time's expired. I appreciate your insight into this, and I would add to that just that is one of the reasons why we have a long, proud tradition of local law enforcement in this country, is for precisely the reasons you described. When we allow the law to be enforced by people who are accountable at the local level, good things happen. Correspondingly, bad things happen when we have people who are accountable to only to someone 2,000 miles away. I appreciate your leadership in this.